So, you know that feeling right in the pit of your stomach when you open a banking app on your phone?
Oh, yeah. That immediate sense of dread.
Right. Or like when you're sitting at the kitchen table, you're looking at the month's bills and you realize there's just, well, way too much month left at the end of the money.
Exactly. It's a very specific kind of knot.
It really is. It feels like this impossible engineering problem where the math just refuses to work out and suddenly your heart rate is spiking.
It's completely universal, honestly. I mean, that knot is literally the physical manifestation of financial anxiety.
Yeah.
We like to think of money as just, numbers on a spreadsheet. But the truth is, it's deeply emotional. It's tied to our security, our families, our future, and, well, our sense of personal failure when things just don't line up.
Totally. And, we've both spent years coaching folks as they navigate these exact financial waters. So our mission in this deep dive is singular. We want to dismantle that anxiety for you.
Yes, that is the goal.
We are going to explore how shifting our perspective from being the owners of our resources to becoming the managers of God's resources is like the actual mechanism that achieves true financial peace.
It's a huge paradigm shift. And one of the most important financial principles to understand is that true financial stability begins with the heart, long before it ever reaches a spreadsheet.
Wow. Okay. Say more about that.
Well, if you view yourself as the sole owner of everything you possess, you bear the entire weight of your financial survival.
Right. It's all in you.
Exactly. And that triggers a constant fight-or-flight response in the brain. But returning a tenth of your income, what the biblical model calls a tithe, it physically interrupts that neural pathway.
It stops the panic.
Yes, it forces a pause where you actively acknowledge a higher provider.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can talk about the practical stuff like building emergency funds or eliminating debt or avoiding lifestyle inflation.
Which are all crucial, by the way.
Oh, absolutely crucial. But before we get there, we have to establish whose money it actually is. The biblical model starts with bringing the first 10% of our income back to God. How does that fundamentally change our stress levels?
Think about it like this. When you hold tightly to the idea that every single dollar is yours, every unexpected expense is a direct threat to your sovereignty.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Returning that first 10% isn't a tax. It's a regular, physical reminder that God is the true owner of everything, and we are just his trusted managers.
I really like that framing.
That specific practice is what shifts the mental focus. You move away from that sheer panic of, how will I ever have enough, to the peace of knowing you're being provided for by the Creator.
Yeah.
It just fundamentally alters your relationship with the material world.
I want to build a practical analogy for this just to make it really concrete.
Go for it.
Think about managing a household budget versus, say, managing a multi-million-dollar corporate account for an employer.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Because when it's your personal bank account, an unexpected expense feels like a personal attack.
It really does.
The car breaks down, and you lose sleep because, well, it's coming straight out of your own pocket.
But imagine you manage a massive logistics account for a large company. You were incredibly disciplined with those funds.
Exactly. You track every penny, you negotiate good contracts, you completely eliminate wasteful spending.
But at 5 o'clock on Friday, when it's time to log off, power down the laptop, and step into the Sabbath rest for the weekend,
you don't lie awake sweating over the company's bottom line.
Exactly. The ultimate responsibility for the company's survival rests with the owner, the CEO, not the middle manager.
Man, that emotional distance brings such incredible peace.
It does. And when you realize the title deed to your life, your talents, and your income actually belongs to God, you still exercise extreme diligence.
Right. You aren't just reckless.
Not at all. You still live below your means. You aggressively avoid bad consumer debt, but you are freed from the crushing weight of ownership.
Because it's not yours to lose.
Precisely. Making that first 10% set apart breaks the grip of materialism. You're reminding your brain and your soul that your core security isn't found in your net worth.
Okay, but wait. I'm stuck on this, and I need to push back on the math here.
Let's hear it.
If I have $100, right, and I give away 10, I literally have mathematically less money to pay my electric bill or, fund my retirement.
On paper, yes.
So how does having less money actually result in less anxiety? Because I think a lot of people hear this and they unconsciously start treating God like a cosmic vending machine.
Oh, yes, the vending machine theology.
You know what I mean? Like, I put my 10% in, I pull the lever, and out pops a promotion at work.
Right.
How do we avoid that trap while still actually trusting in his provision?
That's a vital question.
Hmm.
And what many people don't realize about money is that how we spend it is a direct reflection of what we worship.
Wow.
And to address that vending machine trap, we avoid that by understanding the actual psychological and spiritual mechanisms of giving. We aren't giving to get. We are giving because we have already received so much.
It's a response, not a transaction.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how this tangible act actually rewires our brains regarding scarcity.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that, because I love the practical side of this. How does giving away money literally rewire the brain?
So when you give money away willingly, especially as an act of gratitude or worship, your brain actually releases dopamine and oxytocin.
The feel-good chemicals.
Exactly. And it actively counters the stress hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is what spikes when you feel that financial panic we talked about earlier.
The knot in the stomach.
Right. Giving physically trains your brain to feel abundance. Think about it. If you can give money away, your brain subconsciously registers the reality that you must have enough.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
It completely shifts your focus from what you lack to what you possess.
So it's not some magic trick where, like, the $10 turns into $100 in your mailbox.
No, not usually.
It's a fundamental change in our psychology. We are doing something physical that alters our emotional state.
Yes. And that emotional state has massive financial consequences out in the real world. A grateful person is inherently a wiser person.
How so?
When you're content and thankful for what you have, you are far less likely to make impulsive life choices.
Ah, right.
You stop trying to keep up with the neighbors. You don't buy a vehicle you can't afford just to project an image of success.
You avoid that whole trap of lifestyle inflation.
Exactly. The financial blessing isn't usually a magic check. It's the natural byproduct of the wisdom, discipline, and contentment that a lifestyle of stewardship creates within you.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if giving is our tangible act of worship and it's physically making us wiser managers, we have to look at what this faithfully managed money is actually accomplishing.
Right, because it doesn't just vanish.
Exactly. It's not just disappearing into a black hole. It's funding what the biblical text calls the storehouse.
Yes, the storehouse.
Talk about that. What is the storehouse?
Well, that term essentially refers to the collective resources gathered to support the community and the mission. And it has a massive dual impact.
Okay, global and local, right?
Yep. On a global scale, your tithe directly supports the ministry of spreading hope and the gospel message worldwide. You become a literal partner in that global mission.
That's incredible.
It funds pastoral care, it funds educators, it sends vital resources to reach communities in every nation. You are literally helping to light up the entire world.
And then there's the local care aspect too, right?
Absolutely.
The offerings build this safety net and operational fund for your immediate church family and your local community.
Yeah, it covers the very practical realities of ministry.
Right, like just keeping the lights on in the building, making sure the children's weekend classes have the educational supplies they need.
Or supporting youth mentorship clubs.
Exactly. Or having a dedicated emergency fund to directly help a family in the congregation who, just suddenly lost their primary income.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, participating in both that global mission and the local community care, it does something really crucial to the human heart.
Which is?
It removes our natural human tendency towards self-isolation.
Oh, that's so true.
In our modern culture, it is remarkably easy to just build walls, hoard our resources, and only look out for our immediate household.
Let's build another practical analogy for this local storehouse concept. Think about how a healthy family operates at home with weekly meal planning.
Okay, I like this.
A responsible family deliberately sits down, they look at their grocery budget, and they plan out nutritious meals for the week. They buy the groceries, they prep the food.
Right, they don't just wander the aisles on a Tuesday night hoping they don't starve.
Exactly. They deliberately allocate funds so they don't end up wasting money on, impulse takeout or unhealthy convenience foods just because they're stressed.
They have a plan.
Yes. We have to do the exact same thing with the local church storehouse. We deliberately budget our offerings so the church can actually be the hands and feet of Jesus when a crisis hits.
Because emergencies don't make appointments.
Right. If a family in the community loses their home to a fire, the church shouldn't have to scramble and pass a hat hoping to find some spare change.
No. The storehouse should already be stocked.
Because the managers have been faithfully budgeting for it.
Beautifully said. By systematically contributing to a global and local mission, you are building a community of care. You are tethering yourself to the well-being of others.
You're invested.
Exactly. You become financially and emotionally invested in your community's success.
I do want to circle back to the math tension, though.
Okay, let's go back to the math.
Because budgeting for the church and the global mission still means, on paper, you are operating on 90% or maybe even 85% of your income.
That's true.
So how exactly does the discipline of living on less physically cure the anxiety of not having enough? Even with the dopamine release you mentioned earlier, it still feels so counterintuitive when you are staring down a stack of bills on the kitchen table.
Right. And this is why so many families struggle financially. They operate almost entirely out of a mindset of scarcity.
Scarcity?
Yeah, scarcity isn't just a lack of money. It's actually a cognitive bandwidth tax.
A cognitive bandwidth tax? What does that mean?
When you are terrified of not having enough, you get tunnel vision. Your brain literally dedicates so much processing power to the immediate panic of survival that you lose the ability to make good long-term decisions.
Oh, man. Like taking out a high-interest payday loan just to cover a minor emergency?
Yes.
Which only traps you further in debt.
Right.
Or ignoring preventative maintenance on your car, which leads to a catastrophic engine failure 6 months later?
Precisely. You can't see past today.
Yeah.
But the biblical framework offers a daring invitation in the book of Malachi, where God essentially says, try me now in this.
Test it out.
It's a literal invitation to test the principle. Faithful stewardship promises to open the windows of heaven. And as we established with the vending machine discussion earlier, that doesn't mean a literal bag of cash drops onto your front porch.
Right, right. The blessings are way deeper than that. They're more structural.
Exactly.
They include profound peace of mind and even physical health. Because when you aren't carrying the crushing stress of financial anxiety, your cortisol levels drop, your sleep improves.
Your immune system isn't constantly compromised by worry.
Yes, you regain your cognitive bandwidth.
You do. When families operate out of scarcity, they cling to every single dollar in fear. But when we prioritize managing God's resources faithfully, we move from scarcity to abundance.
We can rest.
We can rest in the promise that our basic needs will be met. And practically speaking, when you have the discipline to track your money and return that first portion, you naturally develop the discipline to budget the rest of the 90% wisely.
That makes so much sense. You aren't just haphazardly spending anymore. Because you've already sat down and made a deliberate mathematical choice about your finances right off the top of your paycheck. And that intentionality, it just spills over into everything else.
It really does. It changes everything.
It spills into your grocery budget, your housing choices, and, your savings goals. You move from scarcity to abundance because you actually know where your money is going. And you know the owner of the universe is backing you up.
You are operating in partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And that partnership isn't just about, surviving this month's utility bill. It's actually an intergenerational wealth strategy.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the long haul? Because we aren't just trying to pay off a credit card today.
Right.
We want to build something that lasts, right?
Right.
We want to establish a foundation that outlives us.
This is where discipline and planning become powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We have to view stewardship as training for the soul.
Training for the soul. I love that.
The principle is that faithfulness in very little things, like our earthly income, our monthly paychecks, that prepares us for true riches. Stewardship is a discipline. It helps us grow into the image of a God who is, by his very nature, a giver.
It's like spiritual weightlifting.
Exactly.
Think about physical training. If a family wants to be healthy, they don't just magically hope they have good endurance.
No, that takes work.
They adopt healthy living habits. They prioritize drinking water, getting enough sleep, maybe choosing a hike in nature on a Sunday afternoon instead of spending money on expensive, fleeting entertainment.
Right. They make intentional choices.
They train their bodies.
Yeah.
And they pass those healthy habits down to their kids. Financial discipline functions the exact same way.
It does. Every time you choose delayed gratification, every time you faithfully return tithe, every time you put money into an education fund or an emergency savings account, instead of upgrading your lifestyle,
you're lifting a spiritual weight.
You are training a muscle.
And you're leaving a legacy of faith. By modeling faithful stewardship in your home, you teach the next generation that God is trustworthy. You show your children in real time what it looks like to trust God's promises over our culture's constant pressure to just consume and hoard.
And this raises an important question for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of financial leadership are we currently modeling in our own homes?
Oh, that's a convicting question.
Right. Are our children seeing us panic over bills? Are they seeing us arguing at the kitchen table about credit card statements?
Yeah.
Or are they seeing us calmly, deliberately, and faithfully manage the resources entrusted to us? This deliberate practice is how we break generational habits of debt and financial disorder.
We replace the cycles of stress with a legacy of generosity and faith.
Absolutely.
That is the ultimate question. Because the legacy we leave isn't just about the inheritance we leave in a bank account.
No, not at all.
It's about the values we leave in their hearts. So, just to summarize everything we've unpacked today in this deep dive, biblical stewardship is the ultimate foundation for financial stability.
Without a doubt.
It fundamentally changes our heart's relationship with materialism. When we step out of that stressful role of owner and embrace the peaceful role of faithful manager, we replace the constant anxiety of scarcity and debt with a deep, resting peace.
It is a complete paradigm shift. It protects our hearts from the endless pursuit of more. It funds the vital mission of the local and global church. And it secures our families against the inevitable storms of life by teaching us extreme diligence and planning. It really is the path to true, lasting abundance.
We want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your week.
This is a good one.
We've talked a lot today about how our spending reflects our worship. So try this exercise. Take a look at your bank statements from the last 30 days. Just print them out or pull them up on your screen.
Look closely at them.
If a complete stranger, someone who didn't know you, didn't know your faith, didn't know your intentions, if they looked at those transactions, what would they say you truly worship? Where is your treasure actually located?
That's something to really think about.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into practical faith and money management. We hope this conversation has encouraged you, challenged you, and equipped you to walk in greater financial peace and faithful stewardship. Until next time, take care and manage well.